Yesterday, West Ham did a bit of absolutely ruthless transfer business. In many respects, it's the sort of thing that maybe I might expect Daniel Levy to do. Absolutely ruthless. We were going to buy John Victor, but it would appear that we used John Victor as a pawn, not that kind, to drive down the price of Mads Hermansen, who was Graham Potter's top transfer target. In the end, we got Mads Hermansen for £18 million. They wanted £25 million. We got the deal done. And then it turned out we didn't know. We've not known for the last few days. Are West Ham going to get 2 goalkeepers? We were bidding for 5 apparently. So we thought, hold on, are we going to have to replace Areola and Fabianski? Turns out it's just one. And I think we played the game. And what's happened is we've ended up with Graham Potter's number 1 target. We've ended up with what many consider to be the best goalkeeper out of the lot for a price that's pretty damn cheap. But the collateral damage it is appears to be that the goalkeeper, 29-year-old Brazilian John Victor, was expecting to travel to London yesterday for his medical. And in the end, as some would say, he was at the airport. I actually made a joke about it yesterday. I didn't know he actually was at Rio Airport. But he was at the airport and got told, that's it, the deal's off. So he's had to go back to his club, Botafogo. They'd already signed a replacement. So they're cross. Botafogo are cross with West Ham. You can absolutely understand why. You can understand why the player would be absolutely distraught. I think they're a rich club because they were in the Club World Championship, but you would imagine he was probably going to get life-changing money by moving to the Premier League. It would be safe to assume that. So very, very disappointing for him. It's something we've got a bit of form for in terms of letting players down, maybe even letting clubs down, but we're not normally successful at it. We're not normally victorious. Basically, we don't normally get the player. Last season was a great case in point. We were haggling over John Duran. Figures are a bit vague. Maybe we wanted to pay 36 and Aston Villa wanted 39. You've heard this story a number of times, but we were so close to negotiations that we said, look, we'll come to an agreement. We were confident that terms would be agreed. John Duran felt so emboldened by this that he didn't think he was going back the next day for Aston Villa training. So he did that on his Instagram account, did a live video. In the end, we pulled out. He was not happy at all. I mean, he was really, really not happy. And then his agent, whose name escapes me, was not in any mood to be doing business with West Ham again. And he's got some pretty good young players on his books, apparently. So West Ham are very capable of putting other clubs, other players, agents' noses out of joint by turning on their heels and changing the deal at the last minute. So from that aspect, it's not good. And I do feel sorry for the player. I really do. But I am a West Ham fan, and I'm pleased we got the goalkeeper that Graham Potter wanted. And for me to say anything other than that would have been totally disingenuous. Because I sit here in this same squeaky chair day after day, saying it's really important that the club back Graham Potter and get Graham Potter the players that he wants. This is undoubtedly the player he wants. In many respects, this is more of a sure thing than Magic Juff, which we know that was a Potter and McCauley signing. He's even got the guy's goalkeeper coach. The team's there. This is the guy we want. And I think we got him for a good price. I think it's good money to spend on a goalkeeper, 18 million. Good age profile. There's a lot to like about this. And as I've said repeatedly, we got a player that improves the first team. That's crucial. That is crucial. So I'm pleased to get the deal over the line. I'm pleased Potter has got his man. Do I like the way it was done? No, I don't. But I also don't want to be the person that sits here moaning about absolutely everything that West Ham do. I can imagine other clubs have done similar things to this. As I say, I've got no proof, but I can imagine it just felt to me like a Daniel Levy style thing to do. I also can see the reverse of this. So let me give you a scenario if this had happened in reverse. Imagine if we had have signed John Victor, who nobody was convinced about when we were linked to him. He's the wrong age profile at 29. Although that's not mega old for a goalkeeper, but this is not really what we were supposed to be doing. And because we'd signed Carl, not so much Carl Walker-Peters, but Carl Walker-Peters on a free, and then particularly we had signed Callum Wilson on a free, who's, you know, possibly his legs are gone. He's injured, injury prone at least. Come through Will Salthouse. Everyone was thinking we're going to do the goalkeeper thing and we're not going to get the best man for the job. We're going to go cheap. We're going to go and get this guy who's going to be on cheap wages from Brazil for 10 million euros or whatever the price was. And worse than that, there was a suggestion that he was coming via Willie Mackay. Now, I don't think Willie Mackay's actually got an agent's licence, so I'm not sure that was ever happening anyway, right? But that was the narrative that was being put out there. So it was another cheap signing coming from an agent that was perceived to have dubious links with the ownership, with David Sullivan. So if we'd have signed John Victor, and then we'd have found out in 3 or 4 days' time that Mads Hermansen had gone to another club, another Premier League club, for £18 million, there would have been absolute hell to pay. It would have been very much, look at it, look at what we've done. We've done the cheap, we've got the cheap O version, another agent. Oh, by the way, all this talk, he was never 25 million anyway, Mads Hermansen. See, if we'd have just tested Leicester, they'd have taken 18. That is the way things usually go. And we're usually on the receiving end. We're not usually canny enough. We're not normally smart enough in our transfer dealings. We're useless at it a lot of the time. And is it ethically and morally correct what we've done? No, I feel sorry for the geezer. Do I believe he was stranded at the airport? Of course I don't. He lives in Brazil. He was in Brazil. You know, he got let down and he thought he was going to move. He thought he was going to be moving to a new country. He's now in a very, very tricky situation with his, you know, with his club who have brought a replacement. But I don't for a minute think that there wasn't a car sent to the airport or he got a cab back or whatever the case may be. I don't think he was stranded anywhere, right? Disappointed, yes. Stranded, no. And is it particularly ethical what we've done? No, but football's like that anyway. And let's be fair, it's on the list of unethical things that West Ham have done. West Ham, certainly that West Ham get accused of, and certainly people at West Ham get accused of. It's pretty low down the list. So I think we have been a bit brutal, and I think we have been a bit ruthless, and I think we've got the job done. I think we've gone and got Graham Potter, the player that he wants. The player that will benefit West Ham. The player that will improve the first team. I mean, I don't want to... I could constantly look for stuff. Oh, what's this mean for Areola? Poor old Areola. There's always going to be people. It is a ruthless business. In many respects, I think almost a more ruthless thing, it might not be more, but it's still pretty ruthless. Michail Antonio really wanted to stay at West Ham. He really wanted a new contract. In the end, his best mate, well, I would say best mate, whatever, one of his best mates, somebody he does a podcast with, everybody knows, Callum Wilson and Michail Antonio are very close. They're very good friends. In the end, even though they've got the same agent, they're both Will Salthouse. In the end, his mate's taken his job. Football is a ruthless business. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. And I don't agree that there's no room for sentimentality. I don't. I think there should be more. I'd like to see more. I'd like to see Aaron Cresswell have got more recognition. I'd like to see him have got a testimonial at the end. I'd like to see the way Michail Antonio has left. I'd like to see him get a send-off. He's gone, and he's been brilliant. He's been brilliant for West Ham. What an amazing signing. An amazing signing. He deserved And to be fair, I'm not sure. I believe there's talk somewhere along the line of him being brought back to a game to wave to the crowd, and rightly so. There's talk about him being added to the coaching team and all the rest of it. Great. I mean, good. Look, to be fair, I don't want him to yet. I think he still thinks he can play. I want him to carry on playing. He came from non-league. I want him to carry on playing. I want him to prove that he's recovered from that accident. He nearly died. For him to be able to play football again, walk out of that car crash, absolutely brilliant. And I hope one day he does that and one day he does come back to the club. But I don't think he's finished yet, and I not at all. So I do think there's room for sentimentality in football. I do. But it is a ruthless business. And I don't for a moment wish that just so as we were sentimental, we'd have gone and got the wrong goalkeeper. No. We went and got the right goalkeeper. We went and got the right goalkeeper that Graham Potter wanted. And I've sat here for the past week, 2 weeks, jabbing my finger at that camera and saying West Ham have got to back the manager. The signings are getting progressively worse. What's happening here? And now we have backed him. Now we've got the player that he wants. If we can now go and do the same thing with the midfielder, I don't know who that is. I don't know whether it's Jacob Ramsey. I don't know. But one thing this teaches you is that some of the players you're linked with, we do sign. We do sign these players. So I don't know whether it's David Luiz, whether it's Jacob Ramsey, whether it's Matheus Fernandes. It might be one of those. Oh, if we sign Fernandes, tell you what, I'll be really pleased. I would go from being worried to actually looking forward to the season. But that's helped. The signing of Hermansen has helped massively. Do I think we were ruthless? Yeah, I do. If we had to be ruthless again in order to get our top midfield signing, and if that meant pissing off Southampton or Juventus or something like that, then we'd have to do it.